thank you for this beautiful, thoughtful, provocative piece of work. And thank you for agreeing to make this film and participate in this film.
I haven't signed up for it.
You haven't signed up. Gotta sign the release first,
Yeah,
Davis. 101.
Stupid.
101. I would like to start with you, Michael. Even though you told me I should start with David. I know you haven't seen this film with an audience in quite a while. You mentioned that before. And I wanted to just ask you sort of how it felt tonight, all these months after the release. And also, you seem like a person who's examined his life. You've written books. You've thought a lot about, your mortality, your future, a lot of stuff. So I just wonder what it's like, what sort of this process, seeing yourself in this film, participating in it, has it, there you got it. Does it open up any new questions, or did you learn anything in the process of making this film and watching it and seeing how people react to it?
I learned my life is saying would rather not be. I learned that there is no, like you said, there's a long range of things, particularly a health situation or a life situation or whatever it is. You really can't move long range. The minute you move long range, you fall into this bit of goo and you're living out of it. But if you take, and it took me 7 years to figure that out. But if you take each beat and you look at it, first of all, your life is longer. Because you examine it every moment. And then you learn by examining it, you're not gonna learn anything more than what you need to know. So then you get over all this self-important stuff like I'm all solved and figured out. Now I'll tell you how to figure your life out. It's just kind of like the reason I wrote books and stuff was not tell the people that they were not prescriptive. They were just counter-sorted on it. Just like kind of like this is what happens when you think you know where you're going and the bus comes. It hits you, not the bus you're on with the drugs working, but the bus hits you. When the drugs aren't working, you're outside of the bus.
Well, the metaphor just changed.
So you let metaphors stick around.
You can't change the metaphor after you finish.
I've never been a metaphor I didn't like. Where's these
I want to talk about this bromance that I've seen blossoming between, in the last 5 minutes. But I imagine you approached before about doing a documentary film, and I wanted to sort of ask, what was it also for you, Davis, to, how did you try to persuade, why did you want to make this film, and what was your pitch to Michael?
First of all, thank you for doing this.
Oh, my pleasure.
If you haven't seen Heidi's films, they're amazing. So I have to acknowledge Molly Thompson from Apple who greenlit this movie.
Molly Thompson from Apple.
And Nell Fortenberry who produced the movie.
Woo!
And Debbie Brooks who runs the Fox Foundation. And Lauren Weber who is queen of all Michael J. Fox. And then I just want to make a visceral reaction, which is that you look really sexy right now. You got the curly hair instead of Barbara, and the scruff.
My page is glued.
Yeah. It was the easiest sell ever. Like I called him up and I was like, "Do you want to do this?" He goes, "I'm in." And he said the only thing he said to me from beginning to end, including the screening here, when we showed you the second time in the movie. The first time I called him before we worked together, he said no violins.
You know what's hilarious is the whole back thing is violence.
I know, and I was so Skip Leavesey, who mixes all the Coen Brothers movies, and was here, and True Grit, and we were finishing the mix, and I was like, "Are there a lot of violins in this?" He goes, I hope Michael was talking metaphorically.
I was talking. I ain't really violins in it.
You were talking literally.
Yeah, no, but because it's this thing with
Viola.
when I started working in the early 90s, I had this new idea of playing characters with disabilities because that was where I was in my life, and I was trying to figure out a lot of stuff about it. And in as much as you can figure out an episode of Scrubs, you life destination. but it was a great experience, but I didn't do that show, and I played a guy with obsessive compulsive. And there were issues that were related, there were a lot of things that people with Parkinson's do obsessively or do to the point of self-injury. So anyway, that having been said, I realized that every time I saw a disabled person in a television show or a movie, they come on and then violins would play.
Right.
Stop piano music, and they figure out how to tie their shoelace, and then work with crescendo. And then I realized that people with disabilities can be assholes too, so I started an asshole with disabilities.
You did that really well.
Well, yeah, I found it. It was very close to home. I did
Asshole
question as well.
comes easily for you.
You left it in, it's fun.
But at the bottom of this all, my understanding of violence is you were looking for a pity party. You didn't want people to feel sorry for you, and obviously another filmmaker could have taken this in some other direction. So, I mean, it's funny because I feel good after this movie, which is really not the thing you'd expect. Didn't you feel good after this film? You do. There's no pity in it at all. So, I wonder, there's a big conversation right now about the celebrity documentary and about sort of where our business is going when it comes to profiles of well-known people. And I'm wondering sort of how the discussion was with you in terms of, was it hard for you to give him the final cut and to sort of turn your life over into the hands of someone else? And what was that discussion like? And did your family weigh in? And what did Tracy think? And just trying to get an understanding of sort of the genesis of
That's 8 questions.
I know. He knows what I mean.
Well, the deal with in terms of like, you know, I'm not a producer on the film, and I'm just the subject of the film, and there's no purpose, and I didn't want to. Oh look, it's my bag. The thing was, I didn't want to. I wanted. They came to me and they said, Apple very nicely came to me and said, you have 3 cancels. You have 3 like things you can say absolutely no to in the final cut. You can object to this next strata of objections, and that's not really that shit. He's gonna make a movie, and I'm gonna see it, and I'm either gonna feel like an idiot or feel good about it, and it just was a great ride all the way along. We definitely some animated discussions with it, but it was cool because he didn't really know what he wanted to do. He didn't give me a direct pitch, but this is what we were doing. It's true. The secret is out. But he so it just kind of evolved, and then Michael came up with this concept of the dual narratives, using footage from my work to illustrate my life, and which was really brilliant.
Very brilliant. Very brilliant. I want to ask you about that. So, Inconvenient Truth and Superman and Malala. I mean, you've got a wonderful body of work, but nothing like this, also stylistically. And I wanted to ask you sort of the turn that you took and sort of how you came up with this merging. I know your editor, is it Michael Hart?
Michael Hart.
Was very involved. I'd love to understand sort of a wonderful job as a
Great
leader.
editor.
Incredible editor.
I'm just saying that Michael Hart down here because he really was my creative partner on this, and did a wonderful job. And Will Cohen, who's standing there quietly in the back, who is a writer, producer. I think the fear that I had at the beginning of this is that there are 2 genres that were hovering above this movie, which one was, a celebrity doc, as you referenced, and also the doc about someone with a disability. And each comes with an expectation. And I've had friends say, I haven't seen your movie because I don't feel like crying. And I go, and I have to say this thing, it's like, well, it's not what you think it is, And I think part of what me and Michael Hart and Will Cohen wanted to do, and you want to do, is like, how do you turn those things upside down? And how do you forget that you're a celebrity and just tell the story of a man? And forget that you have a disability and tell the story of a man who is called, who has this thing that's challenging him. Parkinson's could be anything. It could be anything that any of us carry around every single day. And that was and strip it of the genres and the tropes of all those 2 different types of things. And I don't know how to do it, but that's what we tried to do.
I don't know if I ever discussed with you, one of my favorite, like, little koans, and my head sometimes, is like, one of them is everybody has Parkinson's. When I figured that everybody has Parkinson's, my life got a lot easier. Because everybody has whatever that thing is that they have. It sucks just as bad as Parkinson's. Or it's just as educational. It's self-informing. As Parkinson's, everybody's got it. I can look at someone that's been, I know what their Parkinson's is.
You've all been diagnosed.
Stand diagnosed, but you're,
You the bar.
right, which is why it's, so effective, because I don't know anyone with Parkinson's. You're the first person I met with Parkinson's disease, and I sat tonight next to my brother, and he was nodding along, and there was so much we both identified with, because we all have these mountains to climb, we all have these obstacles, and as long as you have a chip in a chair, man, right? Like, so I felt like that was so, it's accessible, what you've done. And I just wanna bring it back to the craft again.
Yeah.
You said, I didn't know what I'm gonna do, we figured it out in the edit, but it's so precise. I mean, you took archive material and then did these seamless recreations. You don't know where they begin, where they end. I've not seen it done like this. Could you give us an insight into sort of your process? Obviously, you shot those at the very, very, very end. What was that process to come up with that particular style, which is so fresh?
So the challenge of a movie like this is there's so many things in the story that happens where there are no cameras. And so stuff when you were growing up in Vancouver, but also stuff when you're auditioning for Family Ties, and stuff when you got the script for back. You don't need to. Do I need to tell you about your life? Okay, sorry, I'm sorry. So what do you do with that? And there are many things that films that we make that sort of things that you do. And Michael Hart and I, the editor, it's interesting, he was editing in London and I was in LA, so 9 hours apart. And so we have these scenes, which you, Michael, had written. For instance, the scene where he gets a script for Back to the Future, he's on Family Ties, and I would storyboard those scenes because they were, in my mind, recreations. And so I would storyboard them as an artist, and I'd put them in the film, and I'd send them to London, and I'd go to sleep, and then I'd come back, and I'd get a file from WeTransfer, and I'd open the file, and Michael Hart had taken them out, and he put in shots of Secret of My Success. And if you remember that scene where he's walking in the hallway, and then he's talking to this person across, and you tell the story with your voice about, Steven Spielberg called and gave you the script. And I saw this footage of you from Secret of My Success, and I remember calling Michael Hart, going, "Can we do this? Are we allowed?"
Yeah.
And I go, "I don't," and he goes, "I don't know." And then we would start intercutting. So the shot where the script hits the desk was scripted. We shot that in Vancouver, and then for the Back to the Future sequence, where we called it moonlighting, where he's living in the apartment. And then he's being picked up by different teamsters and being taken to 2 different sets, and his Family Ties and his Back to the Future. We instead of doing recreations or using his films, we started putting them together in a way which was indecipherable, and we said, "Can we do this?" And so the whole thing, to answer your question, was like an experiment.
Yeah.
To see how far we could go, and there were scenes. You actually we never told you this. First time I'm telling you this. There's a scene where when your father dies, we had this scene from one of your movies where you're in the hospital and someone tells you that someone dies. We put that in there and we showed it. I was like, no, that doesn't. Like when it gets too real, when it gets too real life, you can't fuck with that.
No, it's a really fine line. And for you to use the film and television shows almost as archive, as like found footage. I mean, it's just. Yeah, to pick and choose the right moments, I'm sure that was, so there was friction between your editor, I'm sure it was positive friction, but like, it sounds like you had different approaches and then you settled on something that was a blended.
I'm starting to learn that a frictionless collaboration is hell.
It absolutely.
And then you want just the right amount of friction.
That's right.
So we had a nice battle, and we did this thing with Spin City where we just said, it's in Michael wrote this, all this comes from your writing. So Michael wrote these beautiful scenes about being on Spin City and not telling anybody and worrying about his medication wearing off. And we went and said, is there footage from Spin City where you can see his hand shake? And we went and did a deep dive, and then it's strange that you asked that because we looked at that as Spin City almost as archive,
Yeah.
as opposed to a TV. And that was the interesting way, the discovery we made. Isn't that what you love when you make movies, is to discover something?
Absolutely, absolutely, and you come from, I think a lot of people in the documentary film world forget that you directed, Alias, and a lot of fiction, ER, and, yes.
ER.
You come from.
I was a
you
TV
come from-
director for a long time.
Yeah, was it fun to jump back into sort of this world a little bit?
It was like, for a long time, I would, direct television to pay for my habit of making documentaries. And so I would live these two different worlds, and this is the first time I could bring those two disciplines together. Yeah.
Super exciting to
I
watch.
did commercials that to pick my habit of drinking alcohol.
Right.
Oh, there's a really bad don't do drugs thing.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah, that we didn't use it. But you were good. It was bad.
There's a few confessions. One thing that I wanted to say, you talking about my heart, because I gave him a hard time at first. He's still brilliant with these, I still with the ending, but I said, we watched the scene, this is the scene in Greenwich Village, and with Tracy and I watched it, and we finished it, and I said, yeah, Gordon Willis shot that. Gordon Willis shot that, and Michael Chapman shot that. And I realized all the great people I worked with, and I realized that it was a credit to how well he used that stuff. It honored that. It seemed like really good filmmaking on his part and their part. It was collaboration across the years.
Gordon Willis, who shot The Godfather, shot Bright Lights, Big City,
Michael Chapman shot Guggenheim.
and Michael and Tracy are walking in the street on a date, and they kiss for the first time, and it's lit by Gordon Willis.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, it's beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah, but it all came together, and I realized that it was so cool is that all these people working across the years, without meeting each other, tell a story that hadn't even happened yet.
You think your life is a movie, or your movie is your life?
My life is my life, it's enough.
Great. Had you revisited a lot of these clips before? Had you had your kids? What was it like to sort of revisit all of this material?
The fun stuff is actually archival material from my family. Tracy would baby, and we stuff that we couldn't use, like I had we had a farm in Vermont, and a lot of stuff I shot. And there's a shot of me with two little babies, sort of like little lima beans. Two girls. While I'm going 40 miles an hour on a full drive thing, and we're gonna put it in, and Tracy, you can't put that in. I'm gonna come back and arrest you. But
I didn't know about that. I never got to see that. That'll be a different movie.
Part two. You had said once that I'd read that you said, I don't know if you were joking, so forgive me, but you said Parkinson's is a gift, and then you said it's a gift that keeps on taking. And I wasn't sure if both parts were true, or you were joking, or may I ask, in some way, I think it's been a gift for people who are gonna get Parkinson's because you're helping so much with your foundation, so they owe you a great gratitude. But for you personally, is it some sort of gift, or?
Absolutely, because it had to be, in my life it had to be something, like, look at the first part of my life, I don't tell a quick story, there's a comedian named Michael Whitby, I don't know if you're really, genius guy. He came over to my office one day a couple weeks ago, stayed in my office, and we were talking, he said, I asked him something about the movie, loved the movie, but he said, why is it that when you were younger, and he kind of like repositioned and said, when you were younger, I said, I sucked? Yeah, you really sucked. Really bad as a young actor. He said, what happened? I said, I don't know, I just started watching other actors and that's how you do it. So you never know what any of this stuff is, what's real and what's not real. And the thing about being a gift is it truly is, it's not far from what you said. It's to know that like some lady 10 years ago go to the store and couldn't count out or change at the counter and was really embarrassed because the girl couldn't bring it up because she changed too bad, or she got in her car and pulled up in the parking lot and started getting in and said she was drunk. And those people go shocking now. They go shocking. They say, I have what Michael Fox said. And that's, I mean, they couldn't get it better than that. It takes. it's very hard to times things I can't do with my family that I used to do, and things and it's really hard for them. It's difficult for Tracy, and you know, she's really kind of put her on a pedestal and do all that stuff. But like I said before, she's gotta live with it. She's gotta, and she wanted to be, she didn't want to describe my movie. She wanted to describe her movie, and then we had each of us do with our own movies. So I'm very aware of that, and I was very, it was delicate treading with all my films with this movie. I mean, like I can joke in the movie about how I don't want to answer my kids' emails and texts, but it hurts my head.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I want to, I sit and I look at it, I can't type, but I can't talk, and if I do type, it just blocks me. If I do that speaking thing, like hey, you know, you say, hi sweetie, how are you? And it goes, hi piece of shit, you're approved. And do that all over again.
Well, honestly, it's also, this is, hey, sickness and in health, why do we take vows? That was also really hit home, I think, for all of us here tonight. I wanted to ask you, we don't have endless films we can make in our lifetimes. We pick and we choose, it takes years to make them.
Yeah.
We know this is true, and you've spent all this time on this movie, and we also make films, not just to make them, but because we are enriched as human beings, right?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to ask you, sort of as a human and as a filmmaker, sort of what did you learn? What did you take away from making this film as a human being and as a filmmaker?
That's such a great question. This film pulled me out of a dark hole.
Wow.
It really did. I was depressed. It was during COVID. I remember being in my scenes in my house and my family at dinner laughing and me being on the couch in the dark, lying, you know, being depressed. And sort of feeling like I'm getting old, my best films are behind me, I'm making the same film over and over again. And then I pick up the New York Times and I read this interview with Michael, and the writing was so good. It was really about a very difficult moment in your life where you had this fall, but you wrote about it with great wisdom and wit, and I was drawn to that writing, not to make a movie, but just for myself, going, oh, here's a guy who's having a really hard time. This is a path for me. And then I kept reading, and I kept reading, and I was like, make a movie, and making this movie brought the joy back in my life. The joy in my work, you know, walking around my editing room and laughing with Michael Hart and laughing with you, and realizing that life is like about how you not attack, how you deal with struggle. And you're an inspiration to me. And you changed my life, and you pulled me out of a dark hole.
Wow.
You called me and you told me to read the book, and you said, I won't be mad. You said, I want you now, and I said, you poor bastard. And then we heard that, and I thought, what a great book this thing to say. It's really stupid. but it's great. I mean, I just want something to go on, right? I know that it was sincere, that I did that sincerely, and I was most out of sincerity. I wanted to tell people things that made pain or something. And I just so when my husband, he died.
Wow. Thank you, Apple. Thank you, Molly Thompson, for making this film a reality. And everybody, tell your friends to watch it. Tell them it's not depressing. To man up, chip in and share, watch the damn thing, and tell everyone about it, please. And also, donate to his foundation. Do something about it, and let's make this better in the future. Thank you so much.